Hey everyone, I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to be playing around with my Himi gouache. So, this is Himi gouache. It's just like a chalky watercolor that reactivates when you add water to it. I got some new Himi gouache this year. Got a whole bunch of different colors. I just really wanted to explore not just the colors, but sort of abstract artwork, shapes, mixing the paint. What can I create intuitively that comes out once I start exploring with the paint? I have my giant Moleskine sketchbook that was gifted to me, and I'm just going to pick a page. And it's funny because I wanted to save this Moleskine sketchbook. You see a lot of YouTube videos where folks are sharing their artwork and everything's a masterpiece in their sketchbook or their art journal, but I've just come to accept the fact that that's not the case for me. I'm using my art journal to really explore whatever art supplies I want, whatever techniques I want, to just like make a mess and see what happens. And that's what we're going to do today. And if you've been watching my channel, you know that I'm completely obsessed right now with this book. I've had this book at least 12 years, but if you look in the book, there's so many artists that are creating messy, intuitive artwork from within. Hopefully you can see that. This is called A World of Artist Journal Pages. I think I'm gonna go online and look for some other ones, maybe on eBay or something, because they don't make them like this anymore. And these are super inspiring books when you get to see different art journal pages and what people are creating in the moment, and that isn't perfection. And I think my focus is exploring and basically diving into internally like who I am kind of thing. And I think that's what art is. So I'm going to flip the camera over. We are going to jump in and play with our art supplies. I'm using gouache. You can use whatever art supplies that you have. You can use watercolor paint, acrylic paint. I think it's just like a time maybe to set aside and let's play with our art supplies and like set perfection to the side. Like forget it. We are going to make a mess, play, and see what comes out. And I think that's the only way to find your art style, improve in your art, and just overall figure out who you are as an artist. And everyone's an artist. Everyone who's creating, everyone who's painting, drawing, like I'm encompassing, like I'm not saying artist isn't professional artist. We're all artists. Anyone who wants to create is an artist. So that's what we're going to do today. And I hope you join me. The first thing I want to practice today is using a charcoal pencil or just any pencil. This is a light wash. I've got a few different kinds of pencils that I might use, but it's just mark making, or, you know, it doesn't have to be mark making. I'm going to draw something and then add a little bit of this gouache because I want it to smudge. And I've seen people doing this with acrylic paint, and I've done this before with acrylic paint. But one of the things with gouache is that it's a chalky finish. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to draw whatever I feel like, which, as we all know, is usually a face. I'm doing three different things, three different sort of experiments with the gouache today, and this is the first one. Again, if you're new to my channel, I have a book on how to draw faces, so if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave a link. So I'm just drawing this, and maybe I'll do some birds. Might be kind of cool to have birds like flying. There's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just playing. My goal is to play with the gouache. I also have a video on how I did these, like, I'm doing this really fast, but these birds. So I'll include a link in the description of this video where you can find the information on how to draw the birds and the book on how to draw faces. So I have water in a yogurt container, and then I have my gouache, and I don't want to be stuck or limit myself to trying to draw. I'm going to try to get out of it. I don't want to be realistic with the skin tone or anything like that. I'm not using a lot of water either because this is just a Moleskine sketchbook. I don't know if it's really going to hold up a lot of art, like water. So I'm grabbing a little blue, and again, the goal for me is to create, I like that messy, smudgy look. And so that's what I'm doing with the birds. The goal is not for me to have this perfect painting. The goal is to just play with my art supplies. And now I know a lot of people use water with their gouache. This is jelly gouache. I can add water to it, but that's not what I want to do today. I actually should have a paper towel. I'll probably go get some at some point. And I really like those. I'm really liking some of these muted colors. And so remember, I am not sticking to proper skin tones. I'm exploring in my sketchbook. Loose and free. And the other good thing about this too is that you can add marks on top of it after. So what do I want to use for this? And maybe I want like a nature scene, so I'm gonna add green to her outfit. And remember, you have to embrace the messy, and that's what I'm doing here. Absolutely embracing the messy. And playing with just colors that I want to play with. Letting it mix if it's going to mix. Layer if it's going to layer. Letting go. I love these birds, actually. I think I like the birds more than the face. I'm not really cleaning my brush either because I want to let these colors mix. And is it going to make a muddy mess? Well, we are going to find out. And now I'm going to go in with a different brush and play with her face a little bit more. Now remember, your gouache is going to blend. Gouache reactivates when you add more water on top of it. So that's one of the things to get used to with gouache as well, is that if you add something on top of it, it's going to blend. So I was really loose when I started, and now that I've gotten sort of everything colored or whatever, I want to add some details, but I know I'm not finished with this. So if you don't want your stuff to mix, then like I don't want her eyes to get smudgy, so I'm using a Sharpie marker to create her eyes and her eyebrows. And the other thing I want to mention is you can't be obsessed with the perfect, because that's when you stop actually making progress with your art. So I'm going to do the beak. And should I do little eyes on it? Now, what can I do next with this lady? For the first exercise, this was the completed drawing. It's hard sometimes to record while you're trying to create, so I just went right for it, and I added some writing to it, just whatever came out. I outlined the birds, and of course I added a little sparkle, and I went back in after I was finished. So I drew this with colored pencil, and then I went back in and I used another pencil to sort of mark over that. I actually used this Conte Paris, I don't know. I got this a long time ago, many years ago, but I actually use this to outline. It has a really nice chalky finish, and it's soft. This pencil is soft. I felt like it went over it really well. I added some whites all around and blended in the colors. That's how I am using gouache. Super fun to layer and play around, in addition to maybe give me ideas for when I do want to do some acrylic paintings on canvas. I am super happy with it. The next activity I'm going to do is just explore some mark making and patterns. The key is freedom. The key is creating with freedom. Let's create patterns with maybe a small paintbrush. And again, I'm not using a lot of water, although I know a lot of people do. I think I've mentioned that this is one of my favorite patterns. I think I like the dry brush, you know, where you're not adding a whole bunch of water, but let's see. I'll try to. Have to get out of your comfort zone. When I first, heard of gouache, I didn't really think, I was, isn't watercolor better, right? Isn't watercolor better than gouache? But for me, it turns out that I just really, I don't know, I like the texture of the gouache, and it took me a while to embrace it. Texture, overall messiness of it. It's a fun way to play with colors when you get just a, this Himi gouache is not expensive. And I don't honestly feel like I need the giant amounts. I like these little tiny, I guess they're dual buckets with different colors in them. Sometimes it's just fun to play with colors and mark making. I'm trying to get a lighter color here. And mark making and see what will come out. The other thing I like to do is, okay, so I've got this pencil. What happens when I draw some lines over it? Okay, now let's see. Let me get a big brush and pick a color. I'm gonna pick a light pink, and I'm adding a little water to it. So a little light pink here. See, I love that messy, blended look. You really have to force yourself to let go of control with this stuff. I have videos on abstract painting. I think when I first started, I was really into the abstract. I still am. Just haven't done it for a while. This is what I've done so far with this piece. I will probably let this one dry. I just mixed some colors and I just kept going. And again, I'm not using the gouache. I'm not watering it down. I'm keeping it thick. This is just for my art journal. And again, it's inspiration for when I want to use acrylic. I can play around. The other thing is you can get like a scraper, since I've laid this on pretty thick, and I can like scrape things away while it's still wet and make it even messier if I wanted to. I don't think I'm gonna keep, well, some of it's dried. I mean, I suppose I can add water to it and make it messier, but if you wanna really, maybe this one, because I just put this on there. If you really wanna have some abstract type artwork, or get your page ready because you don't want to paint or draw on a blank page, it's great to lay some paint down. Now I chose gouache with the knowledge that if I add water, it's going to reactivate this and it will be a muddy mess. But I can add my colored pencils to it. Let's see, I can add, I already did this, but I can add like colored pencils wherever I want, because the gouache is a nice chalky texture. Now this is still pretty wet, but I just love the way this texture looks. I think it's just a great way to play around with your art supplies. The other thing I did was I have this half as one color and this half as the other. It's probably good if you want to make it united to like add some of these colors over here or some of these colors over here, or put some white around the edges. If you want to add maybe some acrylic paint or gesso, you can add some white around it. and the gesso will dry and not reactivate, and the acrylic paint will dry and not reactivate. And maybe I'll do that once this dries or once I leave it for a while. But this was super fun. Let me give you a close-up of this. I really like messy marks, texture, colors. You can see how much fun this is. Also, this is also a great warm-up activity before you begin a painting, because once you get going, you get into that flow. So this is a great way to get into the flow. So that was the second activity, and we have one more gouache activity to do. Gouache makes for a great sort of beginning for an abstract artwork or any artwork that you want to draw on. So you can create a fun background using, I have a bunch of different stencils that you can use, and you can use the gouache for the stencils. Hold on, I'm trying to find some letters. You can use the gouache for stencils and mark making. I also have some stamps. Let's see how this works. And then you draw on top of it. Abstract, but just a fun way to play around. Let's see, I want to find a good, this might be a good paintbrush to use. And I'm gonna pick, this seems to be, I don't know, is this coral? This seems to be my favorite color. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna hold it and tap it. Now I could have put some pencil marks down as well, but I'm going to do pencil marks after. And this is all about letting go of control. Don't worry about a perfect sketchbook or a perfect art journal. That's not what this is about. This is about exploring and playing. I think 2026 is the year for me to just play a little more, find some more books, and see what I can create and how my art supplies work. Okay, let's try, you know, I'm really enjoying these two colors together. So I'm gonna do a bit more here. And just pick the colors you like. I'm gonna do one more up here. I'm picking the colors that I like, and I'm not worrying about perfection. I love that pattern. I wonder, okay, I'm gonna try a stamp now. I have these, actually, I wonder how this would work. This is usually for ink. This is kind of a pretty stamp that I haven't used in about 10 years. Maybe I'll use green. Really liking the green. I'm just going to paint over this stamp, and gouache will wash off. And the jelly gouache, it starts to congeal or become less liquidy. You can add water to it if you want, but I kind of, and I do that once it gets really dried up, but I kind of like it in that jelly congealed form because you can do this stuff with it. If you're trying to explore it and try new things, and you know, you want to just not use your expensive acrylics if you have expensive acrylic paint, this is a great way to do it. Okay, I added a few different colors to see what happens. Let's see how this works. I'm going to press it down. There was a time when I was really into the stamps with my acrylic paints. I use this with acrylic paints, not really ink. And I don't know when I stopped. I don't think I pressed down hard enough, but I still like the effect. So I'm gonna try one more. It's funny, I've gotten so much into drawing. Ooh, there we go. Oh my God, I love that. I'll go back over this. I've gotten so into drawing, I've forgotten about how much I love abstract art and basically just painting. And I haven't painted canvases in a while. Ooh, oh. I really love that flower. I'm inspired by these patterns. I know this isn't gonna work if I do it again. I should have put more on it, but I don't care. That is fun. Now I could put letters on top of this, but I probably would want to wait for this to dry. But this is where you can get out your colored pencils and continue with some mark making or even drawing. There's something about colored pencils, and these are Artex. Again, I think I've mentioned that these are my first choice. I have all the different ones. I'm so surprised. I am. Sometimes you think the most expensive art supplies are the ones that are going to perform the best or the ones that you like playing with the best. But for me personally, it seems like the art supplies that I really enjoy, like When I was selling my paintings, which I haven't in a while because I've just gotten out of it a bit, it was all the expensive art supplies. But now that I'm having so much fun playing, it seems like I'm really embracing art supplies that are just really, ooh, look at that. That really aren't as expensive. That's kind of fun. I love this teal color too, so I'm gonna, what happens when I do this? You saw when I colored it in, it kind of smudged it a bit. And you could like draw circles. I like that pattern, lines. I'm not sure what I'm gonna create with this. This might be one of those things that I let dry and then paint over it. Not all of it, but this was really fun. I could actually see, I can see what I'm seeing right now is maybe some yellow. Maybe I'm just feeling the yellow, but maybe just like a nice yellow here and add a little white to it. And so once you start, things start emerging, and maybe it's just about playing and not about trying so hard. Now I want to go around it because I don't want to smudge all of this stuff that I've created. And maybe that's where you can get some spray, some setting spray to seal it and then keep going. And I love the way this gouache goes right over that colored pencil. Add a little white. It'll be interesting to see what comes of this. I'm going to leave this one for now, but those were the 3 activities to try with the gouache, was just creating sort of some abstract and playing around with the art supplies and how they go together. Again, more abstract and layering. And what else did I have? Where did it go? I will say this is one of my favorites. These are not finished for me. These are actually just in the beginning phases. This one I could see myself adding some colored pencil. This one, I'm not sure what I'm gonna add to it. I kind of love this the way it is, but we'll see. And this one I can see as a background to a drawing. I hope this helped with anyone who's looking to create a journal page or set themselves free in their art journal with just basic art supplies and just sort of letting loose and having fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions about the art supplies I used or the process, please let me know, and let me know how you're doing in your art journal. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a wonderful day and happy creating.